HCAM programming is supported by our viewers, thank you, and by Phipps Insurance Agency, representing companies such as MapFree Insurance. Their family-owned independent agency is deeply rooted in the communities they serve and offer time-tested insurance products to fit individual needs. Since 1950, Phipps Insurance specializes in home, auto, business, condo, and renters insurance. Hello, and welcome to HCAM News. Tom Nappy at the anchor desk to keep you up to date with what's happening in Hopkinton. On this edition of HCAM News, we have scenes from the Veterans Day ceremony in Hopkinton. The South Asian Circle of Hopkinton hosted their annual Diwali Gala, and Matt Clark has our HCAM Insider. But first, here are some happenings in town you should know about. The Hopkinton Select Board has called a special town meeting to be held on Monday, December 9th, 2019. All articles or petitions proposed to be included in the special town meeting warrant must be received at the Select Board Town Manager's office no later than 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, November 21st. All articles and petitions must be submitted to the Select Board Town Hall at 18 Main Street in Hopkinton. Hopkinton Hillers girls volleyball took on Needham in the Central West Division I sectional finals. After the Hillers took the first two sets, Needham struck back. Needham went on to take the fifth and final set. The Hillers end their incredible season with 20 wins and 1 loss. Congratulations on a great season to Coach Grabmeyer and the Hillers players. The American Legion Post 202 hosted their annual Veterans Day ceremony at the Hopkinton Senior Center. Here's a look. The American Legion Post 202 hosted the annual Hopkinton Veterans Day ceremony at the Senior Center.
In Flanders Field is a poem written during the First World War by a Canadian physician, Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. First published in December of 1915, the readers became inspired and touched. Its verses became universally memorialized, and school children throughout the United States would recite this poem every Veterans Day. In keeping with tradition, Kiki Fossbender, a sophomore at Hopkinton High School, will do the honors this morning.
In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, that lurk still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from falling hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep through poppies blow in Flanders Fields.
Pastor Rob Davis talked about his experiences in the military in South Africa.
That was one of my trials, but really the last trial was the worst in the military for me. Our unit was assigned to a suburb of Johannesburg called Soweto, and Soweto was probably had 1 million people, all black folks in segregated South Africa, and they were rioting. And typically what would happen is the military, the South African military, was very well equipped, and the uprising of blacks was very unsophisticated. And so teenagers, like 14-year-olds, they would make Molotov cocktails, which would be a petrol bomb, you know, with a rag and a glass bottle, and they would just throw it and create havoc and set buildings on fire and whatever not. But when it was overwhelming, the police couldn't handle it, they'd call us in. But here's the problem. When we were called in, we would open up with machine guns and just start firing and just killing, just randomly. And these 14-year-olds would be running like crazy and just mow them down. And I said, I am not willing to do that. Now, I don't know what kind of a unit you've been in, but in my situation, my officer in charge of the armored car that we were in, if I refused to shoot, he had the authority to shoot me. And he probably would have, because there was a lot of tension about people that were for or against the government. And I wasn't like for this idea.
David Melly from Representative Carolyn Dykema's office spoke at the ceremony.
I grew up in Newton, down the road, and actually both of my grandfathers are from Boston. Both of them served in the Air Force. They did not know each other, but they were both in the Air Force. And my mother's father grew up in Roslindale. He was the son of Italian immigrants, and he joined the Air Force when he was, I think, 18 years old. He was down at Falmouth in Otis Air Force Base. My mother was born at Falmouth Hospital because he was serving down there, and my grandmother was down there with him. And about 2-3 years into his service, he was on an aircraft working as a radar technician when the aircraft went down over the Atlantic Ocean. And there were 19 men aboard the aircraft, and he was one of only 3 survivors.
Hopkinton veteran Ted Hoyt also shared some of his experiences.
Technically, I spent 23 years in the Army. The last 10 was really my name on a list, so I can't really count that. I do have a lot of military in my family. My dad was Maritime Academy Naval Reserve. My younger brother retired after 23 years as a Navy SEAL. My cousin/brother retired as a Master Chief from the Air Force after 27 years. Your mission is not done. My kids don't listen to me, but they might listen to you. And it makes it our collective mission to pass the torch, to teach them what it means to be brave and free. So please, your mission is not done until the last full measure. Teach them by your presence and bearing. But if you have the opportunity, try to talk to them, to those grandkids, to those great-grandkids, to the random ragamuffins that you might see in meetings like this, and teach them the ideals of why we were willing to fight and die. Continue the mission. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Coming up next, scenes from the South Asian Circle of Hopkinton Diwali Gala and Hopkins School Veterans Day, plus Matt Clark has our HCAM Insider. A whole lot more ahead. Stay tuned.
HCAM News is supported by our viewers and by Hopkinton Drug, located in this historic New England town since 1954. They are a multifaceted store dedicated to providing clients with an array of healthcare options.
Welcome back to HCAM News. Hopkins hosted their annual Veterans Day Assembly last week, and some local veterans were in attendance. Here's a look.
We would like to read to you a poem called Veterans Day by Charlotte Dyson. Veterans are brave men and women who are still alive today. We thank them for their service and the price they choose to pay. Each day we live in freedom and our memory must not fade. The reason for this freedom and sacrifices made. So we celebrate our veterans on the 11th of November. We thank them for their courage and pledge always to remember them.
Thank you very much, Hopkins. As you heard, my name is Mike Whalen. I grew up, went to school, and still live here in Hopkins. It is my honor here this morning to represent the many Hopkinton veterans here at your school. Millions of American men and women have served our country in both times of war and peace. Those who served will always tell you they believed it was the right thing to do. This day is for them, and the ceremony such as we are observing now makes this day even more special. For many years, Hopkins School has been a part of a grateful nation, a nation that is a mix of all the races and ethnic groups from all over the world. This melting pot that we call the United States of America is the best place to live on the earth and the envy of all other nations. Sometimes these emotions lead to conflicts and wars. We need to defend ourselves and protect our families. That is why we have and support our armed forces. Those soldiers, sailors, and airmen keep us safe. They are the reason we have our freedoms and have a better quality of life than any civilization has ever had. However, Veterans Day is not an occasion to glorify or celebrate war, but to honor those who have made sacrifices for our freedoms. It is so important to carry on this custom every year, as every generation is responsible to keep our American spirit alive and to never forget the lessons of the past. Each of you should always remember to take pride in your heritage, your family, your school, your faith, and our country. The motto from the Marine Corps is Semper Fidelis, which is Latin for always faithful. Good words for all of us to live by. At this time, I'd like to introduce the veterans who have consented to attend today's ceremonies. First of all, Marlon Flannery's grandfather, Ralph Stover. Colin Stacy's dad, Kevin. Two lifelong Hopkinton veterans, Jeff McMillan and Bill McMillan. And the grandfather of Charlie Kuhn in the 5th grade, Bob. Thank you all very much.
South Asian Circle of Hopkinton hosted their annual Diwali Gala, and it was a packed house at the Hopkinton Center for the Arts. Here's a look at the festivities. The South Asian Circle of Hopkinton hosted their annual Diwali Gala. Diwali is the 5-day festival of lights, celebrated by millions of people across the world. Here is a look at the tremendous performances.
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls,
where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection,
where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit,
where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action,
into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.
What you may not know is the Dandiya sticks are really meant to be swords. The stick represents the sword of the Hindu goddess of power and strength. Hence the dance form is also known as the sword dance. Let's celebrate the victory of good over evil, as well as celebrate our culture in its togetherness in the Dandiya Ras.
lot of programming is coming up on the HCAM channels. Standing by to tell you all about it is Matt Clark with our HCAM Insider.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the HCAM Insider. I'm Matt Clark, and I'm here to tell you what's happening this week on HCAM. On Friday, November 15th at 5 p.m., hip-hop poet Walnut the Lyrical Genie performs his theatrical poetry in the first episode of a new season of Wake Up and Smell the Poetry. On Saturday, November 16th at 8 a.m., tune in for some classic cartoon shenanigans on a new episode of Toontime. On Monday, November 18th at 7 p.m., the Lake Maspinock Weed Management and Control Group Public Forum will air live on HCAM TV. And at 7:30 p.m. on HCAM Ed, Dr. Kavanaugh talks with members of Hopkinton's STEAM and CTVE programs on a new episode of Highlights from the Hill. On Tuesday, November 19th at 7 p.m., the Hopkinton Select Board meeting will air live on HCAM TV. And at 7:30 p.m., the Conservation Commission meeting will air live on YouTube. On Wednesday, November 20th at 6:30 p.m., Tom Nappy takes a look at this year's Veterans Day ceremony on a new edition of HCAM News Focus. On Thursday, November 21st at 7 p.m., the Zoning Advisory Committee meeting will air live on HCAM TV. And also at 7 p.m., the School Committee meeting will air live on HCAM Ed. If you want to know more about all of HCAM's shows before they air, then head over to hcam.tv/newsletters, where you can sign up for our HCAM Insider newsletter. Or if you want to know more about what's happening in Hopkinton, you can sign up for our daily news updates. That's all for this week's Insider. I'm Matt Clark, and as always, thanks for watching. Back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Matt. That will just about do it for this edition of HCAM News. Don't forget you can stay up to date with everything Hopkinton by checking out our website, hcam.tv, as well as our Twitter and Facebook page. Be sure to head over to our website for the latest happenings in our community and check out the Hopkinton Community Calendar to take a look at upcoming events in town. If you have a Hopkinton-related video, photo, or story idea, I want to hear from you. Email me at news@hcam.tv. With your help, we'll cover even more of our community. For everyone here at HCAM, I'm Tom Nappy. We leave you now with the current community listings and upcoming government meetings. As always, thanks for watching HCAM News. Take care and be well. The South Asian Circle of Hopkinton hosted their annual Diwali Gala. Diwali is the 5-day festival of lights celebrated by millions of people across the world. Here is a look at the tremendous performances.
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls.
Where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection.
Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit.
Where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action.
Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake.
What you may not know is the sticks are really meant to be swords. The stick represents the sword of the Hindu goddess of power and strength. Hence the dance form is also known as the sword dance. Let's celebrate the victory of good over evil, as well as celebrate our culture in its togetherness in the Dandiya Ras.